Hello and welcome to Book Lovers Companion, the podcast about books, authors, their crafts and more. I'm your host Edith, and joining me from the west coast of the United States is author Laura McHale Holland. Hello Laura and welcome to Book Lovers Companion.
Hi Edith, thank you for having me join you today.
Thanks for joining me, and thanks for being so accommodating and rescheduling our talk because of me. I lost my voice, dear listeners, and I would have been of no use to our guests, so we did reschedule, and here we are. Laura, your book, Shinbone Lane, came out in May 2025, and it's set in 1974, the year before I was born, which we ignore right now because that would mean you know how old I am. And it's about a young girl and the people she meets in San Francisco. We are not playing Scott McKenzie's San Francisco, but I was thinking of the song when I read the book. But what can you tell our listeners about your book, your characters, the plot, without giving too much away, of course?
Well, it's set in a time in San Francisco in the United States overall where it was much easier for young people to be mobile because the cost of living was not so high. So you actually could leave with $200 in your pocket and go off somewhere and end up starting a whole new life somewhere. So that was I was alive then. I was a young person in the 70s, and I experienced that. And actually, the book came about because the first little kernel I had for writing that book was when I moved up to Sonoma County from San Francisco in about 2004. I was looking for more work because I couldn't bring all my freelance work up with me. And I was interviewed by someone from Gen X. I'm a baby boomer. And we were just, it wasn't a good fit as far as the work went, but we really enjoyed talking with each other. So we talked for quite a while. And I was talking about just coming to San Francisco to visit, and I ended up staying and living there for 30 years. And at one point he said, "That sounds like a fairy tale." You know, even from my generation to Gen X, it just seemed impossible to him. The conditions were so different. And that was like an aha moment for me. I hadn't ever thought of it as kind of fairy tale-like. And so that put that first little idea in my head, although at the time I was not writing novels. It was just like an interesting thought, like, I wonder if there's something there. And now all these years later, this is my second novel. I'm very, just love the whole process of writing the novel, getting the idea, developing the characters, figuring out the plot, finding out how it's all gonna happen. I tend to be a pantser, and not a planner, so that's actually it's exciting to me it's like this period of discovery. Then you have to go back and, like, straighten some things out, but that's my process. And I'm also very drawn to magical realism, where um, it's not full-blown fantasy where you create a whole new universe. It's not witches casting spells. It's not that kind of thing, but it is an environment that's very much like the day-to-day that we experience, but then there's things that happen that couldn't really happen. And maybe there are things that you really wish would happen, like maybe in certain aspects, the world's the way it would be wonderful if it were that way. Um, and in the two novels I've written, the environment really responds a lot to people in ways that's exaggerated, I guess you could say. And so Shinbone Lane, it doesn't really draw on my personal experience much, other than the fact that I did land in San Francisco and stay, you know? But I had thought it would be fun just to thinking about the young man who said, "That sounds like a fairy tale," and then thinking about all the amazing things that happen, the connections, the people on the move, the people so eager to discover new things. And so I starts off with this runaway. She's only 15 years old, or maybe she's 16 at that point. She ran away when she was 15, and she's been on the road for a while. And she ends up in San Francisco at the Greyhound bus station, which at that point in time, Fifth and Mission, it was a real seedy place. And it's a little scary, and there she is. But then she meets this elderly woman, Clara. The young woman is named Patty. And they establish a connection. And then Clara asks Maddie to help her carry some bags out to the curb where Clara's neighbor Ted is coming to pick her up. And in the course of driving over, um, Clara invites Maddie for tea, and then she finds out while they're having tea that the only connection Maddie has to San Francisco at that point is a phone number that some guy had scribbled on the back of a matchbook cover. She barely knew him, and it was getting late in the day, and Maddie uh, Clara suggests that Maddie spend the night there. And then, things happen, and she ends up staying longer, and she meets all these people on Shinbone Lane, which is where Clara and Ted live. And Ted, across the street from Clara, has this 3-story Victorian, Italianate Victorian, gorgeous place that looks kind of like an ordinary Victorian. Not that they're ordinary at all, they're gorgeous. But to some people, there's nothing unusual going on there. The backyard's just normal. There's a few people who think it's kind of an eyesore. But then to the people who live there, which tend to be young people that Ted takes in, he's elderly too, but they're travelers, they're artists, they're explorers, they're vagabonds, there are all kinds of people coming in there. And the backyard to them is this wonderland. It's larger than any San Francisco backyard can possibly be. And there's a little brook, and there's outbuildings where people do art and music and Tai Chi, and they garden, and it's just this wonderful place. And so is his house. And so she's running away from having been accused. Maddie is running away from having been accused of a crime she did not commit. And so she's starting to feel like she could be safe there on Shinbone Lane with all these people discovering things and just accepting her and not asking a lot of questions. And but then, every haven kind of has a dark side, and even Maddie has a little dark side, and those things between some of the neighbors have been kind of burbling under the surface, and they're starting to come out. And the question is, if things come out and just combust in a way, how's that going to affect everybody? How's it going to affect Maddie? How's it going to affect Shinbone Lane, and what happens? And so it's a story about all of these people and what happens when the dark side comes out and mixes with the good.
You said it's a bit on the fantastical side, on the magical side, and not completely world building. It's set in the year 1974, not the here and now, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at real life at the moment, I mean, let's be honest here for a minute. Who would have thought the things that happen in real life are sometimes even more fantastic, darkly fantastic, mind you.
Oh,
But
yeah.
still, you know.
I
So
know. That's true. Yes.
yeah,
Things you never imagined.
no,
Yes.
definitely
Yeah.
not. And
Yeah.
would you say that it's a bit of nostalgia that brought you to write this book or set this book in the 70s?
I think a little bit of that because it's really fun for people like me who lived through it.
Mm,
There's, uh, events that happened
mhm,
that'll be mentioned, or products that were new on the scene, or songs that were popular, or expressions,
yeah,
and the things all work in there. And so then people get to be reminded of a time when things were so hopeful for a lot of
mm,
people. It was after
yeah,
the 60s were tumultuous, but we were young people coming of age in the 70s, and uh there's that strong sense of, anything can happen. We can make things better. This is gonna be
mm,
great, and to just
yeah,
kinda touch base with that overall feeling, and when when you mentioned, like, nobody imagined the future that we have now, nobody thought that could happen, uh, and, um, so what was I lost my train of thought. Where was I going with that?
You were talking about the nostalgia, thinking about this period.
Oh, yeah, but also, uh people who are younger, who never lived through it, but they've heard things, maybe they've seen movies, you get a sense of it. It'll really
Yeah,
give them more of a sense of what things were like
yeah,
then, what
yeah,
was going on, was the backdrop to this story,
mm,
what was happening and, you know,
yeah.
like
Yeah, 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 absolutely agree because you said, yeah, Gen X, I'm Gen X. And we still thought the 80s were not so bad looking back on the 80s compared to the present.
yeah,
There
yeah.
was,
I don't
I suppose in the 80s, there was still hope that things might change for the better. And it looked for a short period of time as if things were getting better. And look where we are now. Yeah, well, let's not talk about the present. Let's talk about your book.
oh.
So let's not
Well,
dwell on the present too much.
there is some value in, not keeping all our attention focused on what's going on because
Yeah,
it you need a break. You need
yeah,
breaks from it.
yeah,
Focus on what's good and what
yeah,
might be possible and what was good and what you love.
yeah. Absolutely. And I suppose that's where books come in, don't they? And you said movies, yes, if they have a positive outlook on the future. Oftentimes these days, films or even sci-fi doesn't have a positive outlook. It's also dark. But when you think of a little bit of fantasy, sprinkled with a touch of magic, you might bring it back, this positive outlook. And isn't that what fiction is for? Helping people find the positive outlook sometimes, not always, of course, but sometimes.
Well, it can be,
Yeah.
and I think writers evolve over time.
Mm,
I think when I first began writing, my first book was a memoir,
mm,
and, I had been writing, uh for a community newspaper, journalism, and, some technical writing for Silicon Valley down south of San Francisco, and, also, though, for my heart and soul, doing storytelling, live storytelling, largely in my daughter's classroom when she was in, grammar school and middle school. It was a wonderful way for a parent to volunteer, to just go in and brighten things up for everybody. But and then I was also storytelling. There's a huge active community in the San Francisco Bay Area, but live storytelling where you learn a story by heart, but you don't memorize it word for word. It sort of depends upon who you're telling the story to. And, so there was this community of people, and we would tell all sorts of stories. This community is still there, although I haven't been doing much storytelling in recent years. But, I and when it came to personal stories, I realized there's a story I needed to tell that is not a story you could just tell an audience. It's this kind of story somebody has to sit down and read at their own pace and process because it's a story of my childhood, which was dark and tragic and troubling. So, but I needed to write that book, and I think the beginning writing that I did, uh, was very much from, I need to express this, I wanna get this out. I wanna do it in a really good way that will resonate for people who need to hear stories like this, but it was still very much I wanna do it t to express this. But now it's more like, and particularly since I read this one novel by, uh, Brian Doyle, who unfortunately passed away, a few years back, a fabulous, inspiring writer. He wrote a book about Chicago, a year and a half. He lived there for about a year and a half right after he got out of college writing for a Catholic newspaper, and it's fiction, but it's based on his own experience. And he captured Chicago in a way. He was there writing about it at a time when I was still living there, because I grew up in and outside of Chicago. So, and it was it just did so much for me to have him write so beautifully and capture this, and it was also magical realism too, because it was largely the Chicago I knew and loved, but also, like, his there was a dog in the story that could communicate, a very wise dog that, people would turn to and get advice from, and mm, things not a lot. It would just, like, drop in here and there like it was just an ordinary thing happening in ordinary life. But anyway, that inspired me so much, I thought, that's the kind of book I wanna write. I wanna do that for other people. I wanna bring that kind of experience to them. So that's what I've, tried to do in my novels, you know? My first novel was, set in a small town in Illinois, and that
Mhm.
was largely it was dedicated to the people of Illinois, you know?
Okay.
And then yeah.
You just said that the wise dog that came in and communicated. I mean, since I'm a person who lives under the paw of 3 cats, I know exactly what you mean.
Oh, yes. Yes. And in Shinbone Lane, there's a pigeon. There's also a
Yeah,
dog. I
yeah.
think there's a pigeon who communicates telepathically, but only to certain people. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, my cats don't communicate telepathically, they do it very loudly. Uh, Laura, may I ask you, you said when you, talked about your book, about your novel, you mentioned your writing process. That's always something people are very interested in, especially other authors. And you said you are a pantser. You do not plan meticulously for your books. You see how it works out. But still, I mean, even as a pantser, you have a sort of outline, small as it may be, especially when you think of your characters. Can you tell us where your characters came from, where you found them, Maddie and Clara and Ted? Where did they come from?
Well, they just appeared, just my imagination. I would, create a scene and really be there looking around and be focused on, say, one character. Like the Greyhound bus station, I arrived at that Greyhound bus station, so I was just, like, looking at that bus station, and I don't know yet if Maddie had if that's when she came to me or not. I can remember in the '80s, um, reading an interview of Alice Walker, who wrote The Color Purple at that time, and she talked about having these characters just come to her, you know? And I thought, wow, I wish that would happen to me, I can't imagine that, And then here it is, I'm writing novels all these years later, and they're coming to me. It's like it's not like I see somebody and I think I'm gonna write a character like that. I don't think I ever worked that way. I wish I could. There's so much rich material out there in the world, like, "Oh, yeah, let's, like, pull that person in or that one," and take 'em. Um, but yeah, she came, and then Clara, I don't know. I love older women, like, I'm an older woman now, but I had this, um, wonderful relationship with my grandmother, and so that's, like, kind of like, what do you say, a foundation for me, that relationship, that love, that woman. So Claire is an older woman. There's in my first book, the Kimini first novel, The Kimini Dream, uh, there's an older storyteller woman who has, a lot of influence and power. I guess there'll always be at least one dog. There's a dog in Shinbone Lane. It's not a real major character, but there's a dog there. There'll probably always be a dog and an older woman, major or minor, depending.
Yeah. Is it because maybe I've spoken about these types of characters to other authors as well, and I have to say I'm a huge fan. I admit it. Our listeners know that already. I'm a huge fan of the Golden Girls because this
Oh,
group, yes, because this group of older women, they're allowed to say whatever they like. It comes with a certain age. Is it this kind of not giving an F in F what other people might think that draws us to these kind of characters, do you think? Because they are allowed to do that no matter what?
hmm, that's interesting. I think that's actually not a universal thing for
Mm.
aging, you know? Some of us don't really feel like we can just say whatever. There are,
Uh,
changes, though. I think there's wonderful changes that I've gone through in terms of not, I don't know, just letting go of ideas and expectations and all kinds of things. But, I think it might depend on your background, your life
mm,
experience, personality, and lots of things. Like, I don't, uh, I've just never been the kind of person who can or even really wants to say.
mhm.
Although, when I think about it, when I'm with my girlfriends or with my sisters, we just like, there's no inhibitions, there's no barrier. Let's just say whatever and have a lot of fun, you know? But that's kinda lifelong. That goes back to my
Yeah,
youth too, though.
yeah,
Always
yeah,
this, like, special, like, goofy place and, you know
yeah. And
but
why not?
yeah. Yeah, but I do think, though, there are a a number of people, there's a big segment of people who do feel like that when you get older, it doesn't matter, you could say whatever, not to be offensive or anything, but you
Yeah.
can really speak your mind more. I do feel like that there are a lot of people who find that to be the case.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Yes, and of course, why not? Why should they not? I mean, seriously. Absolutely. And you said so when you talked about the plot in your book, although there is this magical realism, there is this wonderland in Ted's garden, in Ted's house. The outside world is still there, and darkness follows on the wander's footsteps, so to speak. Um, do you think that's always true? There's two sides of the coin. Where there is wonder, there is also darkness. One can't go without the other. Maybe do we need it to appreciate the wonder?
That's such a good question. Um, I I feel like there's darkness and goodness, and they're flowing through the world, and they different at different times, one will get the upper hand over the other, both, globally, like, for all of us, but also individually, you
Mm,
know? Um, but I think there's a lot of, variety, though, into what degree darkness and lightness will be factors in our individual life. I think, well, there was this priest that my husband was really, really close to. He was the generation before mine, so he's no longer with us. But he just had this light within him. He was this amazing person, and he went through hardship as a youngster. Uh, but there was something about him where it didn't touch him, and he had this light from when he was a little boy, and he lost his mother, and he still had this light, and he went on, and he was able to then give a lot to lots of other people through the course
Mm-hmm.
of his life. I mean, um, so there's some people like, I'm sure there was darkness. He was a priest, people came to him with all sorts of issues and problems and heartbreaks
Mm-hmm.
and things, but he was light. And I can't say that about most priests. You know what I mean? I'm not, you know, I've known some really good ones, though, really good ones. So,
Mm-hmm.
but he just came to mind because I just
Yeah.
remember him being
Yeah.
remarkable.
Oh
Whereas there's
well.
people,
Yeah. I
there's
mean,
people,
yeah.
yeah,
They're still human,
yeah.
and I mean, yeah. Don't tell me about the darkness in the Catholic Church. I grew up Catholic, so I know about the darker side of the Catholic Church. Uh yeah. I'm no longer
Yeah,
within the Catholic Church.
I'm
I've
not
left.
either.
Yeah. Anyway, but of course, on a personal note, I have to say I never encountered any bad nuns or any bad priests myself. Yeah, I have to say that. Be honest here. I have never encountered anyone who was on the dark side.
I only encountered one, and in the generation before me, we had, like, priests and nuns in the family,
Yeah,
so they were around, and they kinda frightened me as a little person, but,
yeah.
um, yeah, but I never had a bad experience with any of them, or there was just only one time in the town where we were living when my father died. um, my father had left the church, but then
Mhm,
right before he died, he went back to the church, and so this priest was coming to get the 3 of us, my 2
yeah,
sisters and I, to go to, uh, the Saturday morning, they call it CCD classes, because we weren't in Catholic school, but to
mhm,
start learning the religion and all. And our stepmother, he came to visit, and I can remember when she told him that she wasn't gonna do it, and he had a reputation, he was harsh. He was the only priest I knew who had a bad reputation,
mhm,
and he was irate, and his face turned red, beet red, and he screamed at her, "You're gonna rot in hell for this." And he turned around, went out the door. That's the only negative experience I ever had with a priest or nun, and I did know a lot of them.
mm, mm. And did she open the door and shout after him, "See you there"?
He turned and opened the door and left and slammed
Okay,
it.
okay.
Yeah.
You should have called out to him, "See you then,"
Yes.
because
Yeah.
ah, 1974 San Francisco, 2025 San Francisco. What's the biggest difference?
Mm, people can't afford to live there, working
Mm,
people, you
okay.
know, um, just prices are so astronomical. Uh, we moved up to Sonoma County in 2004, and I thought
Mhm,
prices were, like, awful off the charts back then. I mean, we had been renting in the city in a place that was rent controlled, and we
mhm,
decided, uh, things got really noisy in the place below us, and we were thinking we're gonna have to move, but we're gonna have to pay so much more rent, maybe we can buy, and so we were able to get a place up here in Sonoma County. And, I mean, even up here now, how it's so hard, for people to just get their foot in the door, to be able to own a home so that you can start building some equity, you know? And San Francisco, who can land there? Who can land there at the Greyhound bus station without much of a plan and meet people and find work, find a place to stay, the whole thing. I mean, it can't happen. Yeah, I remember. I mean, I don't go to the city much anymore. It's a different environment up here. There's a lot of countryside here.
Mm.
It's beautiful. It's nice, but San Francisco's beautiful in a different way. But, I remember, uh, reading about young people coming to the city. This would have been, maybe 10 years ago, where
Mhm.
they were crammed into, um, apartments with just a little bit of space for each one because it was so expensive, and then working these long hours at these tech companies. There were no huge tech companies in San Francisco to speak of
Mm.
back in 1974.
Yeah.
Silicon Valley wasn't really there was Hewlett Packard down in Silicon Valley, probably some other places, but it wasn't like a really big thing just
Yeah.
yet. I don't know. It's just so different. So
Mhm.
difficult. I mean, it's just not
Yeah.
right. The whole housing. If we really wanted to, I really feel like we could take care of people. I mean, I remember reading in the '80s when I think in California, the housing crisis, when I first became really aware of it coming to a head was when they closed all the uh, mental institutions in the state. And then
Mm.
the people were let out on the street to have like outpatient services. They couldn't take care of themselves. So that, sort of ignited what has been with the cost of living and all that other stuff going up, a real crisis. But even back then, I remember reading in People magazine, someone had come up with a small housing unit that could be easily, inexpensively built, that was livable, they could be made for homeless people to live in, either,
Mm.
temporarily or
Yeah.
permanently, however, and it's like, it these ideas go nowhere. They just go off and they die. People have had lots of ideas since then about what we could do, and they somehow just never happen, you know?
Yeah, maybe for those big tech people and those, I don't know, billionaires, it's not sexy enough, you know? But
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's it's sexy enough to hop on your private jet and, I don't know, fly across the Atlantic and sit in a World Economic Forum and bitch about taxes for rich people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You have a point there. It yeah.
I mean,
But
seriously, and those are the people who lecture the little people about driving to work with your car and not using public transport, for example, here in Europe. Seriously? Seriously. I mean, come on. I mean, just like the Austrian expert Arnold Schwarzenegger, he flies in on his private jet. He drives a Hummer in California, and he comes to Austria to lecture us about how much better it would be for the environment to use public transport. Oh, come on. Seriously.
that's yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
I mean,
There's this
yeah.
arrogance that they
Mm.
have.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we are back
Selfish.
to the dark things in life now.
Like, oh, yeah, oh, there we went. Well, it's really hard not to go there right now.
Yeah,
You have to
yeah, unfortunately, yeah, unfortunately,
yeah,
yes. But
'cause, I mean, the president of the United States just sent in uh, some kind of strike force to go in and grab the leader of Venezuela, just
yes,
Hugo
and now
Chavez, and is like, "What?" You know?
yes, and now you are supposedly running Venezuela. Good luck with that.
I shouldn't laugh.
Next Greenland, or maybe, I don't know, Mexico, Canada, who knows?
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I hope not.
Yeah. So do
But
I.
it's like, yeah, I know. I think everybody's hoping not. But,
Yeah.
it's a dark time. It is,
It
it's a
it
dark
is.
time for our
It
world. It's a
it
dark
is,
time. So
unfortunately.
what role can art play now in this dark time? That's because 'cause I'm thinking about I needed a break, because sometimes I think this'll happen, especially if you're working. I work as an editor too,
Mm,
and so then there'll be these projects and, like, you launch a book and you run, 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 go, 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 go
yeah.
in your head a lot, it's like, uh, I needed to take a break from, like, what's my next book gonna be or whatever, and I had been working on a manuscript, and I'm thinking about going back to it. I don't know, there might be, like, 10,000 words or so, but I'm thinking now, like, well, what kind of book should I really write right now? Should I follow this? How can I shape it to go in a meaningful direction? This also this one is set in, like, 2015 or so, maybe, around there.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
has it to move, or has it to be written in a meaningful way? I mean, meaningful for whom? For you, for your audience? Because I think there is a lot of value when people say, write what you would like to read or what you enjoy. Because if you are passionate for what you do, for what you write, then it also helps the reader to be passionate about what they read.
That's true, that's a really good point. I actually needed to hear that, I mean, I've heard that before, but I needed to hear that today.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. I think so. Why just write for the market? I mean, who is the market? It's a little bit like fashion. I mean, there's also fashion in the book industry, isn't there? Because and I'm not just talking about book covers, because there's also a sort of fashion how covers
Yeah,
should look like and how they did look like for quite a while. Thrillers had to have a woman in a red coat on the cover. God knows why. I don't know. But
yeah,
I mean, you have people. For example, the best example I always mention is when talking to other authors is Jeffrey Deaver. He once said at a panel, "I look at the market and I write for the market." I mean, good for him, but it's not for everyone. And
yeah, I
maybe what he thinks the market wants is not maybe not what every reader wants.
well, that's true. I mean, I I haven't ever been able to analyze what the market wants and write for it. Back, back in the '80s, I was, I went through college sort of in and out, mostly out, but, like, when I was maybe 31, I got a degree in interdisciplinary creative arts. So I was trying all kinds of things, having a really, uh, what do you say, creative time.
Mhm,
There was
mhm.
a lot going on, bursting forth with ideas. And then, um, someone gave me a book on writing romance and saying, because I wasn't sure, I hadn't discovered yet that editing, as far as earning a living, is a really good fit for me. I didn't know that yet, it's kinda like, "How am I gonna, like, earn my keep?" "Is this gonna work?" And, and this person said, "Romance writers make a lot of money. You should just write a romance," and I actually tried. I tried. There is a huge market. Women in particular love romances, but it's like I was incapable. It is not something I can write, it's just not in me.
Yeah.
So, uh, yeah, I can't write to the market, you know.
Yeah, supposedly self-help books are also quite
Oh,
asked
yeah.
for.
Oh
I
gosh,
don't
that
know.
reminds. Yeah. I used to love them. There was a time, I think it was in the '90s, where I was working really hard on improving myself, you know?
Yeah. I've never read one. I have to admit, I've never read one. Therefore, can't say about that.
Hey,
Yeah, well,
good
who
you
knows?
you know you know what, I think I was just reading on Substack. Somebody was writing about the new year. Grant Faulkner, I think. He is working with, oh, I'm not going to remember her name. Anyway, he's focused on memoir right now and
Mm,
personal writing. But he has good thoughts for any writer. And he was just thinking about the turn of the new year and how it's a really hugely American thing to like set these like improvement related resolutions, like, and he said, um,
mm.
maybe it's time to rethink that and like let that go and be gentler. Um, yeah,
Maybe. I mean, it's not just an American thing. I think that's something everyone also here in Europe does all the time for New Year. These resolutions, how to improve, like you said. But maybe it's a completely different way of looking at life and work in the United States than in Europe. That's something we often observe when we hear people from the United States speak, or when also sometimes when I talk to authors, it's more like a different attitude. I mean, we here in Europe, I would say, we work to live. In the United States, you live to work, and that's a completely different mindset.
it is. Yeah. Hmm. I would say another aspect of the '70s and what people were able to do then in the United States, or at least a certain group of young adults, was to not uh, live to work, to like let it go and explore. That was
Yeah.
one of the freedoms that that time gave us.
Mm.
Um, yeah. So I'd say but then I beat myself up though because I was never oriented. I mean, because I was trying to find myself and what I needed to do, and I'll maybe this is like really American. I'll look back and say, you should have figured out your career earlier. But then I remember like walking down the street in the middle of a weekday afternoon, and I had, in kind of a darker period of my life, been working like as an assistant to somebody. It was, like, really dismal at a typewriter, boring,
Mm.
over and over, like, just ugh. And I thought, you know, I don't know what the future's gonna be, but I'd rather be here walking down the street in the sunshine than, like, in a corner at a typewriter, hunched over, you know, uh, but then I beat myself up, like, "You should have, figured something out." You don't have to it's not a choice between walking down the street in the sunshine and, like, terrible little dark corner. There are other possibilities. I didn't do a good job, I tell myself, of figuring out what was possible for me. But that's not a nice thing to do, it's a waste of time. I'm wasting my time beating myself up. But that might
Mm.
be
Yes,
American.
maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. This
I don't know, though.
this being goal oriented
Yeah,
and
yeah.
what you have to do. Like I said, live to work, and yeah, it's strange. Like I said, it's a complete different mindset from the one we have in most of Europe. And maybe that's also the reason why we do not really understand each other as well as we think we do.
Oh, yeah. Oh, just, having you bring that up and talk about it, I just took a deeper breath just thinking how wonderful that is. Imagine living in a world like that. you know? I don't
True.
know, I think all of us feel so, like there's so much to do. I feel so bad about I mean, okay, things aren't easy for me, but they're so hard for so many people,
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think, so many of us feel like, oh, just heartbreak. It's worse than heartbreak. It's
Yeah.
just about the conditions that people are
Yeah.
living in here.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's this almost a grinding, like, what
Yeah.
can we do? What can we do? What can we do? You know? And I don't know. Somehow the mindset of live to work, not work to live, somehow that might be mixed in there somehow with that.
I think so. I think so. And the way supposedly you look at other things, universal health care, for example, and this misconception of saying, yeah, this universal health care in Europe, yeah, that's communism. No, it's not, and it's not all free because you pay for it with your taxes. I mean,
Yeah,
a certain amount of your income goes into insurance. Your
right.
your money, your employer's money. And that's how it works. It's not all free because, okay, when you go to the emergency room or you call the doctor, you don't have to pay extra because it's covered by the insurance, which you pay on a monthly basis with your
Mhm.
income. And so does your employer. And
Yeah. I
I'm
mean
not saying it's all wonderful here. There's a lot room for improvement. Don't get me wrong. But we don't have to fret when we call the ambulance. You don't get bankrupt when you call the ambulance because
mhm.
it's covered. Don't worry.
I know. So wonderful. There's so many of us who wanna have universal payer insurance, so many, but it's just you hit this brick wall because there's lobbyists, like the insurance companies for one, they and the drug companies, they have so much power and influence. I don't know
Yes,
if it's that
yeah, yeah.
way in Europe,
It
but
is, but in Europe, that's something I've read somewhere about these pharma um, companies, and it's said, and that's true. I mean, when you look at the European governments, there is at least uh, uh, true for the EU, for the European Union, that each government has at least one person within each government whose purpose is to negotiate with the pharma companies about drug prices. You don't have that in the United States. Every government
no.
here in the EU has that. People who negotiate with the drug companies.
Yeah, and we pay more for drugs than people outside of the United States, even if they're
Yes,
US companies. It's like it's
yes,
insane. It's insane,
yes, it's
you know?
insane that you do not have one person dedicated to negotiate with these
Mhm.
companies because that's what we do.
Yeah.
And who pays the price? Who gets it first? Because we also had trouble with drugs, getting enough of them because of shortages, because money and prices are the question. But
Hmm.
at
Yeah.
least they try. Like I said, there's a lot of improvement here in Europe, more so than
Mhm.
it was, let's say, 20 years ago. But don't get me wrong, I wouldn't change it.
Mhm. Yeah. There are some states I can remember the first time Trump got elected, I went to a meeting that a representative for the area that I live, a
Mm,
representative in
mm,
that were thousands and thousands of us went there, to some gymnasium at a high school, and, there were also representatives from California government, and so it was federal and state, senators and representatives, and discussing lots of different issues, and one of the things that was of concern was, um Universal health care, why can't we have it? That was an issue that was brought up that they had to deal with, and they talked about how great it would be, how much they wanted it, and then it's like, but the trouble is, how do we pay for it? And it's like, how do we pay for it? How do we pay for it? And it's like,
How
it
do
just
others pay
stopped
for
right
it?
there, you know? It's like the current system is so wasteful, but I mean, they aren't being honest about these drug companies. I'm not saying about our representatives. I don't think they take a lot of money from insurance. Well, some of them do, but the ones who were there are not in the pocket of insurance companies and drug companies, but enough people are so that it isn't a matter of the money not being there. It's being the money being directed to the wrong place. It's wasteful right now the way it is. But they can't bring themselves to come out and say it. The only ones who say it are Bernie Sanders. For years, he used to send out mailers to people. He's a senator, independent, but he caucuses with Democrats from Vermont, putting these ideas forward, universal health care, so many things, stop the wars. Um, and Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, who's from New York, she's a representative. She speaks her mind about what really needs to happen. And now there's this new mayor in New York City,
Yeah,
Zoran.
Mondami, I know. Yeah.
He speaks up, but most of them do not. Most of them, I don't know. They're just kind of lost in a fog somewhere, negotiating. Some people say it's just for power, and I think power is it for some of them, but I don't know. I think some of them are probably just scared. I don't know. Or just not
I
thinking, right?
yeah, they're not thinking about the future, maybe just about the here and now. I mean, how do you pay for it? How do we pay for it? Both ends of the stick pay for it. I mean, I pay for it and my employer pays for it.
Yeah.
And it's okay for us to pay for people who can't work, who aren't able to work. That's how it works, and that's how we like it
Yeah.
here in Europe. I can only speak for Europe, or let's say in a smaller percentage for Austria. That's how we want it. It's okay to pay for people who can't care for themselves, either because they are injured or because they are old or because they have a terminal illness or whatever makes it impossible for them to go and work and pay their due. That's what we call solidarity, isn't it? And that's okay for us.
Yeah. Yes, it makes so much sense. And it's the right thing to do. It's
Yes.
like we're all in this together, and people
Yes.
pretend like we're not,
Yes. Yeah,
here. This
exactly.
individual, pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Yeah,
Ah,
not if you're in a wheelchair and if you can't work. I mean, not just being a wheelchair, or having other medical issues. Yeah, and you can't work because of an illness. No, you can't, and it's not your
mhm,
fault. And that's why we, as a society as a whole, care for you. Full stop.
mhm. Yeah, it's wonderful. It really is. We have dreams of that happening here. Many of us do.
I know.
But,
I know. I mean, it says a
both.
lot about the society how you treat your weakest.
Yes. Oh, yes. That's so true. That's true of individuals too. You can tell a lot about people by how they treat others when they have power over them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I
Yeah.
know. On a more upbeat turn, may I
Yes,
ask
yes.
you, may I
Yeah,
ask
yeah.
you, Laura,
Back to the writing.
since we've talked about your book is set in the 70s, 1974 again, and you lived through this time, but still, when you wrote or the book came out last year, 2025. So, how much of the things you mentioned when you introduced your book did you have to research again because you had remembered incorrectly? Because it's always a thing with when authors set a book about, let's say, 20 or even 10 years in the past. They thought, oh, I know, this happened then. And we had this or that equipment or technical gadget. And it turned out, oh, I remembered it incorrectly. Did that happen to you as well? Did you had to look it up and make sure you didn't get it wrong? Things you mentioned?
There were some things I remember, some things I was sure of, and some things I wasn't sure of.
Mm,
And, I would just, like if I wasn't sure, I would look them up. But it's a fascinating thing with memory, at least the way it works for me in writing. When I'm immersed in a scene and there's things going on, things will come to me. Things that, like, in conversing with you, they don't come. I can't tell you
mm,
too much about what happened in 1974 off the top of my head right now. But when I was in that writing space, you
okay.
know, things
Yeah.
would just come. They would just come. And and by and large, they were accurate. They were good.
Mm,
The ones I wasn't sure of, I, looked up and
okay.
and if I knew I don't know. Did this really happen? I think it did, I'm not sure, you know? I'd look it up on, Wikipedia or something, you
Okay.
know, and um, and it's there was just one thing. Well, you know, because I had beta readers, you know, and then
Mhm.
people really sharp, you know, people are good at different things. It's wonderful to have different sorts of people read it because different people notice different things, and there were a couple of things that other people said, "This didn't happen then," and then I'd check and I said, "Yes, it did." But there was Famous Amos cookies. They're these delicious chocolate chip cookies that I put into a seed, you know, and I was sure they belonged there, but they didn't come out for, like, another year, you know, and somebody caught that, you know,
Ah,
uh
okay.
so I did have help with the fact checking things, but
Mm,
mostly it this wonderful thing of the same thing happened when I was writing my first memoir, because it goes all the way back to, starts when I'm, like, not yet 3 years old,
mhm,
and
mm,
get there, getting the memories, poke around, what do I remember? What did I see? What was I feeling? Who was there? And things would come. Things came back, you know, and through that
mhm,
child, it goes from about 13, and that's just a fun thing to
mm,
experience.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned when you spoke about your process and your characters, you look around and you see. Is it a bit like a film that's running in your mind when you look at things or
Yes,
when you create things? Mm,
yes, I really see them. I see them moving, and I will feel things, uh, either about them or maybe sense how they're feeling. And then I'll have them talk, and, like, the dialogue comes, and yes, I see them definitely, I picture, uh
mhm,
I don't think of myself as a really visual person,
mhm,
'cause, one of my sisters, Kathy, she's a graphics designer, also visual artist, and she is just, like, always noticing colors and just loving them so much in a way that I mean, I love the environment, but I just don't notice the same way, and my husband is, like, really sharp, like, noticing all sorts of details, things I just, like, walk right by or something, you know?
okay.
So I don't think of myself as really visual, but when I'm writing, I'm picturing what's going on, yeah.
Mhm, mhm. And may I ask, would you say that San Francisco and the neighborhood you describe in your book plays such a vital part? Would you say San Francisco slash plus the neighborhood is a character in itself in your book?
Oh, yes, I think it is. Uh, and there's a hill, like Shinbone Lane is off of a very steep hill, the 29th Street Hill, and I lived on Sanchez Street right near the 29th
Mm.
Street Hill. Um, so, I mean, that's like a character in my life, that whole neighborhood. There was no Shinbone Lane up the road, but, uh, the place, the setting, the people, even though it's different people that, I have characters there, not real, not well, they're real to me, but they're not the people that I actually knew
Mhm.
living there. But the sense of the place, oh, it's very much a character in the book. Yeah.
Yeah, it sometimes is. And what can you tell us about this one character in your book? One might call it a little bit of an antagonist. The neighbor, Eloise Watkins, the burdened dancer. What about her?
Oh,
Who
Eloise.
is
Oh,
she?
boy.
Who is
She
she?
was she was really fun to write. Um, she her daughter is missing, so that's really, bothering her. But at that particular time, a lot of young people took off. Her daughter was 18, and so people were not, overly concerned because they thought, "Well, she'll turn up or something." But it isn't like they didn't care about her, but she's kind of antagonistic and a little hard to take too, and really down on Ted and his, home and all the people who come and go there. She is from a long time San Francisco family. She's been living on Shinbone Lane all her life. And, she's just not liking the way things are going there. Um, but she's, like, a lot of fun, though, too, she dresses up, she's got her makeup on, her hair's done just right, she's got a little poodle dog that she likes to she'll be sitting in her lap, little Coco, and she's got a Betty Boop bag, and, just, uh and she'll say something like, "Well, this sort of riffraff shouldn't be here. Hmm." She'll go, say something else, "Hmm," you know? So, she was fun to write, and, I do feel like through the course of the story, by the time you find out what's really going on with her, um there's terrible aspects to it, but you can't help but have compassion for her in the end. So I think she's a really fascinating character.
Someone who is not just bad, so to speak.
Definitely.
Someone with
Yeah.
redeeming character traits.
Or yeah, yeah, definitely not just bad. Someone you can understand, someone you can
Mm.
have compassion
Yeah.
for.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And would you say that through the course of the book or the story, one might discover that home is not necessarily a building or a place, but people?
Yes, yes, I think definitely that comes through. And also underlying that is when there's real love there between people and people are experiencing it and giving it, you can get through anything.
Mm.
That is,
Yeah.
kind of an underlying theme or message. And I wasn't thinking that that was my message as I was writing, but I think that's a big part of what the book is
Yeah,
saying.
it's a thread through the book.
It's a thread. Yes,
Mm. Mm.
definitely a thread. Because it is love will really pull you through anything. you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it helps. I mean, you feel for people who can't experience it. Hmm.
Oh my goodness, yes. Yes, that would be an interesting character to have in a novel. Someone who can't
Well,
experience love.
yeah, I would say people with a personality disorder.
Hmm.
I would say can't. Like if you're, I don't know, a narcissist or psychopath, doesn't
Mhm.
mean anything. They can't feel it. They can't fake it if they're very good, but I'm
Hmm.
not sure they can. As far as I have listened to people talking about those character traits or this personality disorder, they can't. Hmm.
Hmm. Wow. Those types of characters are usually the bad guys, like in the dark crime shows like that I watched too
The
many
Hannibal
of.
Lecters, the Hannibal Lecters of
Oh gosh,
fiction.
yeah. 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 I don't think I've ever had somebody close to him in a book, written a character. Although, sometimes I write flash fiction.
Ah.
They go in phases. Like while I've been like thinking about or not ready to start another book, I've
Mhm.
been continuing to meet with my critique partner and I've been writing flash fiction, you know,
Ah.
and all kinds of characters could come up in that, short little dipping in. But even there, if I think about it, they're generally not tipping over into psychopath territory.
Hmm. And come to think of it, would you like to write a novel featuring such a character? Deep, deep down, would you like to do it?
Oh, I don't know. There's something about that scares me. It really does. Because you have to get into their mind, and inhabit that
Yeah. Yeah.
darkness. And it's one thing to read a book, although I don't read horror. I don't read
Hmm.
horror. Uh, or watch a TV show where there's bad characters. I mean, there's a distance there. You don't really have to get into their head.
Yeah.
But if you're
Yeah.
going to write a character, you really do. The same as if you're going to act, if you're going to portray a character like in a play or something, you've got to really absorb that. And I don't think I want to do that.
Hmm.
Yeah. But that is something to think about, because
Yeah,
it,
but
it would add a whole other dimension to
yes,
work.
and maybe to get it out of your system, just you know, because I think that's the reason why crime fiction authors are such lovely people in general.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Huh. Well, I don't know. I do like having somebody conniving and negative.
Okay.
Uh, Definitely. I've always got to have somebody like that where they're up to something where you
Hmm.
would never get, where you would just not suspect what this person really has going on,
Okay.
you know? But I don't know. That is, I wonder. I wonder if Eloise could be considered a psychopath. I don't think so. I think she's too vulnerable in a way,
Hmm.
too vulnerable and too much more to her in a way. But she might be getting close. You know,
Hmm.
she's definitely up.
Okay. Hmm. Makes
Uh,
you wonder, does it not?
it does.
Just say all those lovely people maybe are not that lovely at all.
Yes. I mean, that's fun to think about. Uh, yeah. it just makes me think I had a stepmother who would seem lovely to like, if relatives came to visit or if she interacted with the neighbors or that kind of thing, but boy, when it came to my sisters and me, she was a completely different person. So,
See?
I do like to have that sort of element there, like, things are not always as they seem.
Yeah, they're most definitely not. No, 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 no. Oh, yes, they are not. Laura, is there anything else you would like our listeners to know?
Well, if you read Shinbone Lane, I would love to hear from you because it's just fun to hear what your thoughts are, what you liked, what questions you might have, what you're wondering about. Um, that would be really fun for me. So I guess I should tell people how they could reach me.
Yes.
Are we at that point now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
please, please tell them.
Okay. Well, my website is lauramchaleholland.com. And, so there's a contact form there. That's one way. And also, I have this, page on Linktree where it lists my social media, all of those, and that's, uh, LINKTR period /Laura MCHH. Should I repeat that? Because they can get all my social media there. It's on Linktree. It's LINKTR period /LAURAMCHH. So it's got Substack, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook. That's about all I do. And I'm getting more and more into Substack and less into the others, but I do try and keep up because there's some, I think it's true for most of us on doing social media. There's a few people where that's the only place where you can really interact with them, So, yeah.
Yep. True, true, true. Social media, necessary these days, but the pain in the backside. Hear about
Yes,
it.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, something I like about Substack, it is not cluttered with ads,
Mhm.
so you can
Yeah,
really focus on the people and what they're saying and talking
yeah.
about and it really interact. Whereas Facebook, over the years, it has just gotten to be more and more cluttered, stuff coming in from everywhere. And every now and then I see something from a friend, something I want to,
Yeah,
find out about.
yeah, but Facebook is just for the old people, like myself. I don't know. I'm the old people, so
Mm,
that's what I can handle. But I know what you mean about Substack. There are a lot of interesting people who write articles on Substack. It's quite interesting,
Yeah, I'm enjoying
to
it
be
these
honest.
days.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting to read. Laura, thank you so much for talking to me. It was absolutely wonderful having you on the show. Thank you.
Oh, and thank you, Edith. I've had such a fine time talking with you.
Same here. Please wait for me in the green room. I will be with you shortly.
Okay.
Dear listeners, I do hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as my guest and I did. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I do hope you will tune in for another episode. Until next time.